In the cold waters of the North Atlantic, where gray waves rise like giant walls, a tiny creature is struggling against the power of the ocean. It has no sharp talons like an eagle. It does not have the powerful body of a great predator. And it does not look frightening enough to make others back away. It is only a small seabird, with a black and white body, orange feet, and a bright beak glowing like a tiny flame in the cold sea. It is the Atlantic Puffin. People often call it the clown of the sea. But behind that adorable appearance is a life far harsher than it seems. For many long months, puffins live far offshore, surrounded by cold winds, thick fog, and waves that never sleep. Most of their lives are not spent on land. They are spent at sea, a place with no nesting burrow, no soft grass, no safe shelter, only cold water, sudden storms, and silent hunts beneath the deep blue waves. On the surface, a puffin looks small and fragile. But when it dives underwater, it becomes a true hunter. Its short wings are not only made for flying through the air. Under the water, those wings become powerful paddles, pushing its small body through schools of silver fish. It chases sand eels, young herring, and tiny fish flashing through the cold current. Every dive is a step into another world. A world darker, colder, and more dangerous. But today, something inside it begins to awaken. It is time to return. After months drifting across the open ocean, the puffins begin heading toward the remote rocky islands of the North Atlantic. There, on grass-covered cliffs, a new breeding season is about to begin. From the rough water, one puffin takes flight. Its small wings beat quickly. It flies low over the waves, through the mist, toward the island where it was once born. To humans, it may be only a cold cliff rising from the sea. But to the puffin, it is home. As the cliffs appear through the fog, the sound of life begins to rise. Hundreds, then thousands, of seabirds return. On the grassy slopes along the cliffs, puffin pairs gather beside old burrow entrances. They stand close together, bow their heads, touch beaks, and call to one another with low, gentle sounds. Across a vast ocean, they have found each other again. One puffin pair walks slowly across the wet grass. Their steps look clumsy, almost funny. But each step carries a serious purpose. They are searching for their old nesting burrow. A small burrow deep in the soil, on a grassy slope near the cliff edge. This place is not beautiful or grand. There are no tall branches, no soft layers of leaves. Only a dark, narrow, damp tunnel. But for a puffin, this is one of the safest places to begin a new generation. The male lowers his head and checks the burrow entrance. The female stands nearby, watching the sky, because this place is not only full of life, it is also full of danger. High above, large gulls circle in the wind. Farther away, a skua watches silently. They wait for moments of weakness. An unguarded egg, a chick that leaves the burrow too early, or a puffin returning with a beak full of fish. On this breeding island, 1 second of carelessness can come at a deadly cost. Inside the dark burrow, the female prepares for the most important moment of the breeding season. She lays a single egg. Only one. All the hope of the puffin pair this year rests inside that tiny life. If the egg becomes too cold for too long, the life inside may disappear. If a predator finds it, the entire breeding season will be over. From that moment on, the lives of the puffin pair change. They no longer live only for themselves. They live to protect a life that has never seen the light. Mother and father take turns incubating the egg. One stays deep inside the burrow, keeping it warm with its body. The other flies out to sea to feed, then returns to switch places. Day after day, they repeat the same rhythm. Incubate, guard, fly to sea, hunt for fish, return, and begin again. Outside, the weather is never gentle. Fog covers the cliffs. Cold rain falls across the grass. Ocean winds blow so strongly that the puffins must lower their bodies to stand against it. But inside the burrow, the egg remains warm. And in that darkness, life is growing day by day. Then one morning, As the wind outside the cliff begins to calm, the egg starts to move. A tiny crack appears in the thin shell. Inside, the chick begins the first struggle of its life. No one can break the shell for it. It must push on its own, peck on its own, and step out of the place that has protected it for weeks. At last, a tiny, weak body appears in the darkness. The puffling has hatched. It does not yet have the colorful beak of its parents. It does not have the beautiful feathers of an adult puffin. It cannot fly. It cannot swim. It cannot find food on its own. It is only a tiny life lying in the dark burrow, completely dependent on its parents. And from that moment, the struggle of the puffin pair becomes even harder. Keeping an egg warm was difficult, but raising a chick that grows larger every day is far more demanding. Out at sea, the parent puffins begin their endless hunting trips. One launches from the cliff, beating its wings rapidly in the cold wind, then drops toward the water. In an instant, it disappears beneath the waves. Underwater, everything happens quickly. Small fish turn and flash in the cold blue light. The puffin rushes after them with powerful wing strokes. One fish is caught in its beak. Then another. Then several more. The tiny fish lie crosswise in its orange-red beak, shining like little silver blades. But catching the fish is not the final victory. It still has to bring them back to the burrow. And on the way home, thieves in the sky are waiting. A skua spots the puffin flying low over the waves. It dives from behind. The puffin is smaller, weaker, and carrying a beak full of fish. But it does not give up. It cuts through the wind, drops lower, and flies straight toward the crowded puffin colony on the cliffs. In the confusion of hundreds of seabirds, the skua struggles to choose a target. The puffin escapes. It lands near the burrow, looks around quickly, and slips into the darkness. Inside, the puffling is waiting. Its tiny beak opens. One fish after another is given to it. For the chick, this is not just food. It is life. Day after day, the parent puffins keep flying out to sea. Some days the ocean is calm. Some days the waves rise high. Some days the rain pours over the entire cliff. But the chick still needs to eat. And so its parents must keep going. Then a storm arrives. The sky turns dark. Wind slams against the cliffs, carrying cold rain and salty spray. The puffins crouch low against the ground, their feathers soaked, their bright beaks fading into the gray of the storm. Offshore, the waves grow higher. Every hunting trip now becomes more dangerous. But inside the dark burrow, the puffling is still waiting. One parent flies into the rain. It disappears into the rough sea. Time passes slowly. Inside the burrow, there is only the sound of wind outside and the faint breathing of the chick. Then at last, through the cold rain, that small figure appears again. It flies low, its wings tired, but its beak still holds a few small fish. It has returned. There is no loud victory. No shining glory. Only a small meal in a dark burrow. But to the puffling, it means everything. Time continues to pass. The chick grows larger. Its down becomes thicker. Its eyes grow brighter. Its body becomes stronger. It begins to move closer to the burrow entrance. For the first time, outside light touches its eyes. In front of it are green grass, seabirds, a wide gray sky, and far beyond that, the endless ocean. That is where it belongs. But it is also a place of waves, darkness, and hunger. Each time the chick moves too close to the entrance, the parents stand in front of it. Outside, gulls and skuas are still patrolling. If a chick appears at the wrong moment, it may never get the chance to see the sea. So the puffling waits. It waits in the darkness for a few more days, until the instinct inside it becomes strong enough. The short North Atlantic summer slowly comes to an end. The cliffs grow quieter. The wind grows colder. And the light begins to fade. Inside the burrow, the puffling is almost ready. It is no longer the helpless creature that first broke free from the egg. It is now strong enough to leave the only shelter it has ever known. But this journey must be made alone. As night covers the island, The ocean below turns deep black. The sound of waves rises in the darkness. On the grassy cliff, everything becomes quieter. This is the safest time for the puffling to leave the nest. Inside the dark burrow, the young bird stands. It turns toward the entrance. No one teaches it with words. No one shows it the way. Only instinct guides it forward. It steps outside. Small steps across the wet grass. The night wind moves through its young feathers. In front of it is the cliff. Below is the sea. In that moment, its entire life changes. It cannot remain in the burrow forever. It was born to belong to the ocean. The puffling reaches the cliff edge. It stops. Below, pale waves strike the rocks under the dim moonlight. Then it jumps. It is not a perfect flight. Not a graceful moment like the flight of an adult bird. Its wings are still clumsy. Its body falls through the darkness. But it keeps beating its wings. It keeps trying to hold itself against the cold wind. And then it reaches the surface of the sea. Cold water surrounds its small body. The waves lift it and drop it again. But it rises. It is alive. On the dark night sea, a young puffin begins a new life. Behind it, the cliff and the burrow slowly disappear into the darkness. Its parents do not follow. From this moment on, it must learn how to survive in the ocean by itself. Find fish by itself. Avoid storms by itself. And endure long months without touching land. If it is lucky enough to survive, one day it may return to an island like the one where it was born. It will find a burrow, find a mate, and begin the same journey its parents once made. But that future is no longer as certain as it once was. Because the ocean is changing. As the sea grows warmer, small fish may move away from familiar waters. As food becomes harder to find, each hunting trip becomes longer, harder, and more dangerous. As storms grow stronger, even a small burrow on a cliff must face greater challenges. Still, Atlantic puffins return every year. They still stand on the cliffs in the cold wind. They still dig burrows. They still incubate a single egg. They still bring fish back to their young. And they still send the next generation out to sea in the darkness. But one question remains. Will the ocean still be generous enough to feed them? Among the waves of the North Atlantic, the small bird with the bright beak continues its journey. It may look like the clown of the sea, but its life is a silent epic. A story of loyalty, of parental love, of survival instinct, and of fragile hope, passed from a dark burrow on a cliff to the endless ocean. When the tiny puffling disappears into the night sea, it is not the end. It is the beginning of a life written by waves, wind, darkness, and the belief that even as the world changes, life will always find a way to continue.